Soacahtoa. You know? That thing? SCT. That's 42 guy. Answer to everything. Remember, hey Canadians, SCTV? Anyway. Thought that was interesting. So anyway, I just want to talk about the construction. The revisions on the construction. Okay, so I'm pretty confident now where the voltage gets connected to the cell. Okay, so when you break the cell down to the isoron of the constructs that I have, you have a positive and negative from your voltage source, if you can get voltage. Let's say 120 volts of voltage. Well, let's say 240 volts of voltage on two wires, positive and negative. I think the negative, which looks like an axle, should be attached to the axle at the edge of the box where the bearing is. Okay, the first pivot point of the axle. Okay, so I think you can get like a slip bearing that goes over the axle itself, so as it's turning, if you take your negative wire and pinch it into like a speaker contact, I think that whole thing gets like charged or whatever, and then it goes into the axle. Okay, now at the other end is where your magnet's going to be, and that magnet will be on a 23.4 degree tilt. Okay, because you need a wobble, you need motion. That's why the thing like this, the George Green motor, magnetic motor, doesn't work unless you have that wobble. If it's stationary, it'll stop spinning and just stand there. Okay, having the magnet on a tilt will create a, when it's rotating, it'll create like a spin. Now think of this: if you're creating a sine wave and you're not moving it, okay, it's going to stay in that one-dimensional, two-dimensional plane. Okay, it's not going to be three-dimensional. It's going to be two-dimensional plane, not moving. But if you start to wobble it, what it's producing is a sine wave going out in a wobble formation. It's getting motion. Okay, you need energy. You need motion to collect energy from the Schuman resonance of the Earth, let's say. So the wobble of the magnet at the end of the axle will have a negatively charged voltage there. Okay, your spark gap will now be the gap between the magnet in heaven and the rings of heaven. Okay, so a plus sign. A plus sign is indicative of, a two-dimensional plane. But think of it coming back in a spherical configuration, like the rings of heaven, which are a sphere of 5 rings. Your X, your Y, and you have a ring like this, a ring like this, and a ring like this. 3 dimensions, X, Y, Z, and then your 2 eyes, one like this and one like this. Okay, those are all going to be made of metal. Let's say steel. So let's say both the axle and the rings of heaven are both made of steel. Makes it very easy to position the 32 magnets per ring, or 160 magnets in the rings of heaven, because it's like putting magnets on a fridge. Okay, so you position your magnets, okay, and all your rings, just figure it out, and that's where your positive contact goes. So you weave it through, the structural supports or the chassis of the Ark of the Covenant itself, and you charge that ring system. So now what's going on? You have magnets, ring magnets, that are spaced apart from each other, acting as zero-dimensional singularities on a one-dimensional line, in a two-dimensional plane, in a three-dimensional, like, spherical charge made of the 5 rings, right? And the spark gap will be the black hole once geometric symmetry and sacred geometry, blah blah blah. Like cube has 14 axles, 6 faces, 8 vertices. The positively charged heaven will have a spark gap to the magnet on a 23.4 degree tilt or wobble on a steel axle going to a negatively charged voltage source. Positive, negative. There you go. And I also thought about the solenoid itself. So imagine this. Instead of just putting like a ring with fingers on the ring, what if you did this? What if you modeled, like, those toys that are like the children's stack toy of the rings? What if you take the biggest ring like that, it looks like a torus, okay? What if you 3D printed perfect toruses? And then when you had the torus there, you could break it into 36 pieces where your solenoid windings are going to be. And you can model the diameter of the copper and all that to make it so that everything fits. So instead of just having the normal flat solenoid arrangement configuration like a washing machine, you have it more in a maybe bubbly outy kind of toroidal shape. Maybe that needs to be happening for your 3 wheels and your 5 wheels on the faces and vertices. Okay? Where your magnets, 42 of them are inside the big wheel and 8 of them on the outside of the small wheel on both ends of the solenoids. Soacahtoa, baby.